Okay, I guess we can get started. We have a quorum. Before we get started into the business, because the meeting's not real long, so, you know, the sooner we start, the better we are. Now, what we're going to do is do introductions. We'll start over there with you.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Just names or?
Yes, name.
Darius White.
Okay.
Daryl Price.
Okay, Darius and Daryl.
Right.
Okay.
My name is Rich Searles. I work for the Urbana Police Department. I'm
Okay.
currently assigned to the Investigations Division as a lieutenant.
Okay.
Currently, but there's a but in there.
Okay.
But I'll let him hold it. So, my name is Preston James. I work in the Human Relations Department for the City of Urbana.
My name is Todd Brent. I work in the Human Resources Division for the City of Urbana, and I'm here filling in for Vasilia while she's on vacation.
Okay.
Ricardo Diaz. What else? Just part of the board.
Mikhail Lubansky.
I'm Grace Mitchell.
And I'm Megan McGinty.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to put you right to work. And if you haven't did a ride along yet, maybe Preston can get you hooked up so you can do one. They're
Sure.
quite interesting.
Be glad to do that.
Okay. You've done one.
Yes.
What'd you think?
It was an excellent experience, actually.
Okay.
We had our first call was an issue of some young gentlemen. They ended up having a BB gun,
Okay.
and one actually had a real gun.
Okay.
And it could have went far left, but the officers, the sergeant, they handled it excellent.
Okay.
It was really good.
Okay.
I actually ended up asking to stay a couple hours later.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I didn't expect that to happen at the beginning of the time.
I always say because I think I'm a police once I get out there.
Hey, you know we're testing if you're interested.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, tonight's meeting, we're now called to order, and we do have a quorum, roll call
Megan McGinty,
here,
Grace Mitchell,
here,
Mikhail Levinsky,
Here.
Scott Gossett, Ricardo Diaz,
Here.
Darius White,
Here.
Daryl Price.
Here.
okay, we do have a quorum. There's no public input, we don't have anybody from the public. Anybody sitting in the hall or anything waiting to talk?
No, I just put it out there. I'll check again, but go ahead.
Okay, okay. Tonight's meeting is a special meeting where we're going to be looking at taser usage and make sure that we're in accordance with the ordinance that's in place. Okay, and what we have is some information about tasers. I think tasers have been used for what, 2 years? About 2 years tasers have been in use. And-
3 years.
I think we're coming on 4.
Okay, boy, I done lost something in here. Okay.
I'm
getting
flying,
pretty
right?
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've had the opportunity to review some of the videos in usage of tasers by the police department. They also now have body cameras, which are good. They're doing an excellent job. What we want to talk about is the things that are involved in the ordinance, and do we feel that there should be maybe some additions, maybe some deletions, maybe some improvements of things done. I must say that thus far, I think the officers have done a good job with taser usage. A couple of things I'm probably going to suggest that we could be more involved in with the usage is that we don't have to see so many. Maybe if we could randomly select videos to look at in the process. Randomly means that we wouldn't be looking at details at all videos, because some videos when we're looking at the ground or looking at a tree, I see it as, you know, something that we don't need to do. So that's my opinion. If someone else has a different opinion, they certainly will.
Would that be the case now that they're changing over to the body cameras, which would probably give us a better visual? I understand with the taser camera, when they pull them, or you know, they're going straight to the ground.
Right.
So there's a lot of that in the first few videos. So with that, or how many tasers still out there with cameras that are in use? I guess.
So, okay, so we've got, I believe the number's 13 tasers on the street. Kind of the way the process works, maybe this is maybe a good place to start, just so you know from an administrative perspective, kind of what happens before y'all see it. So an incident happens and an officer pulls a taser. Some of our tasers have taser cameras, some of them do not. The taser cameras are about $600 each.
Right.
They are not cheap.
Right.
So the taser camera actually provides the battery power for the taser, okay? Because of a fiscal issue, we don't actually have a separate line item for tasers. We have to sort of take money from here, there, and everywhere to pay for the tasers. Just to replace the battery and not the taser camera itself, the battery is like $40. So there's a substantial price difference. So we've elected to go over, since we have body cameras, to just the battery for fiscal reasons. So the officer pulls the taser, they resolve the incident however they resolve it, whether they discharge it or point it at the person, then they write a police report. You guys have seen those, you know,
Right.
going on about 50 times now. That's about how many videos you've reviewed. It's about 50. And then what they do is they're supposed to email me, so I can look for it in the stack of reports the next morning. Because one of my collateral duties is I read probably about 75% of the police reports that come through the police department. So, yeah, we write about 8,000 police reports, by the way. I read a lot. That's the reading glasses. Who knew trifocals were a thing in your 40s? Anyhow, so I read the police reports and I decide, is this report complete? And if the report's not complete, then I tell the officer, hey, you need to write this report, you need to finish this up. And then what happens is that report will then go to my administrative assistant, the investigations division administrative assistant, and she will redact the report. Those are the reports y'all see, okay? So then once I review the report, she redacts the report, then what I do is I'll go and I'll grab the videos. And I download the videos, and then I watch the videos, and then I say to myself what needs to be redacted. Faces, names on uniforms, things like that. So then I have to go grab the video and I have to run it through redaction software. And then typically I redact it 2 or 3 times because I have layers of redactions I do. So the first redaction is, let's say I have a body camera that's 50 minutes long. I know you don't want to sit there for 50 minutes and watch 50 minutes worth of video.
No, we don't.
So I try to pick what I think is sort of pertinent. You know, let's say it's a domestic. You don't want to hear all the back and forth about what's going on. You just want to say, okay, he pointed the taser and it looks reasonable or whatever. So I take that 50-minute video after watching it and I trim it down to, let's say, 2 minutes. And then I run it through the redaction software. And then I run the auto redaction and redact all the faces, but it of course redacts extra stuff. So I have to go through and remove those things. And then sometimes it doesn't capture it. And then sometimes I have to follow people. And so once I'm done with all the faces, then I go through and I redact the audio track. As you can tell, this is not a short process. I mean, I have 16 cases that I still need to present to the CPRB. 16. The last time we talked, I think it was 13. I have been working on videos for the last 2 weeks. Okay, now this is one of my collateral duties as the investigations division lieutenant. So between the shootings, the murder trials, the rapes, the reading of 8,000 police reports, I have videos to do. So I redact these things, and what I'll do is I'll upload them to the HRO. I have a shared drive with Preston and Company, and he'll publish them so you guys can see them. So that's kind of what the process looks like from an administrative perspective. Does that answer some of your questions?
Yeah. Well, actually, so I was wondering if, obviously, before my time, you all were just viewing taser cameras, and then you pretty much probably didn't get as much compared to just the the vocal that you were hearing, but you didn't get any visual out of it. Compared to now with body cameras, pretty much everything we watch will be a little bit better as far as the content that we're getting. So I was just asking, in that case now, going away from the tasers camera, would it be worth watching all of them because we're getting that visual, we're getting a better angle of what the situation is and what's it needed to be,
This is basically what I'm saying. If we could randomly select maybe 2 or 3, we would select, out of the group 2 or 3 that we would look at, as opposed to having to go through all of them because the body cams are now.
Okay.
Now, granted, with body cams so far, there haven't been any problems. They've been 100%. But like anything mechanical, hopefully officers wouldn't forget to turn their cameras on because they come on automatically with certain things when the lights come on and other things come on with the car. So we're hoping that they can maintain the 100% of no problems with body cams. And I'm not saying cut out tasers altogether. I just feel that if we cut down and randomly,
Taser cameras itself. Okay, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
so that way,
Gotcha.
so I was
Yeah.
comments,
Thank you.
Ricardo?
I have a question or maybe a request, Rich. What is the body cam policy? So that we can make it, so as we consider one side, we are not redundant.
Sure.
And hopefully make it so that we're still on the transparency side without more work.
Right. So the body cam policy falls in line with the body camera law that the state of Illinois passed, which we of course had no input on. So basically, what the law says, and this is a much boiled down version of what the law says. The law is about 50 pages long. The law says basically this: if you're doing cop stuff, you should turn on your camera. So if, for example, I make a traffic stop, we should have on our camera. If I'm at a domestic, I should have on my camera. If I get out of my car and talk to somebody, I should have on my camera. Now that being said, if I go into the 7-Eleven to buy a Coke because I want some caffeine, I don't need my camera on. The question is, what are you doing? Now there'll be instances where, let's say I go into the 7-Eleven and I'm buying my Coke, and little do I know there's a guy in the back of the store with a shotgun and he's robbing the place, right? So there's some kind of wiggle room in there. But the way I've explained it to people is, are you doing cop stuff? Does that make sense? I mean, that's sort of, because the
Okay, so that's the general policy or
Yeah.
parameters of it. The mechanical part of it is that every police officer chooses when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
Kind of. So this is what Ms. Mitchell was discussing. So we have an integrated system with our body cameras. We've got our squad car cameras and we have our body cameras. And if I am driving in a squad car and I want to pull Preston over and I turn on my lights, it turns on the camera in the squad car and it turns on my body camera automatically. Okay?
But the one in the squad car is always recording.
No.
Well, you press a button and it gives you the last 30 seconds, so
That's-
it means it's
That's called
been
buffering,
recorded.
and body cameras have a buffering by state law, are required to have 30 seconds of buffering also. No audio, just video. So the same with the squad cars, is the 30-second buffering. That's pretty common. And that's really for things like, sitting at a stop sign and a car flies through.
Yeah, no.
And so
I see it as a useful thing.
Yeah.
But turning it on means it is now officially recording, but there was a 30-second buffer there.
Correct.
So it's always on
A
in that
30-second
sense.
loop.
Yeah, that 30-second is always there for you to pick up as that officer turns it on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other part of the body camera law is that we are required by state law to dispose of video after 90 days, unless I think it's one of 7 things apply. And the list, I'd have to look it up to name all the 7 things, but one is sort of, is it evidence? Is there a complaint that's been filed? Is there been use of a firearm, in a critical incident with a police officer? Like I said, I believe there's 7. So the one that the police department worries about most is sort of what I call the evidence one. Is it evidence? Things like, is there a complaint? Yeah, I mean, that's something that we need to look at as a department, like, oh, we've gotten this complaint, is there video? Because if so, we need to save it. And that's kind of a procedural thing. But we are human, and we make mistakes. So just this morning, my sergeant came to me and said, hey, the attorney's looking for this video of this thing that I had when I was a patrol sergeant. I said, okay, great. So we logged into the system, and I said, your video's not here. What do you mean my video's not here? I was wearing my camera, and I had it on. I remember reviewing it when I was writing my report. I said, yes. And after 90 days, it rolled off because we didn't do, and there's a couple things we could have done to save it. So it is, and the system is designed that way because the law is very specific. 90 days, delete, unless.
Would that affect the time frame of us reviewing any video? If we don't get an opportunity to review it within 90 days, does it automatically?
No, because the procedure that we should undergo when we take a complaint, and I'm glad this is coming up because body cameras are still fairly new to us, so we're working kind of the wrinkles out, is complaint comes in, the supervisor getting the complaint should make sure that we save the video. Now, sometimes the complaint comes in immediately. Sometimes the complaint doesn't come in for weeks.
Right.
You know, so it's just one of those things that we sort of need to add to that mental checklist when we do.
Okay.
So to review the complaint process, to initiate a complaint, they have 60 days,
I think it's 45.
45 to initiate a complaint, which would trigger then the save any possible recordings.
Right, but
Okay.
there's exceptions to that. So, for example, if you're in jail, the time period is
Doesn't count.
suspended. So theoretically, if I arrest you and you go to jail and you're sitting in jail for 4 months, and then you get out and then you come and file a complaint, if I hadn't specifically saved it, that video would poof be gone.
Huh.
So.
But there is other evidence by then, in the sense that there's reports.
Sure.
Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
paper reports and everything
Absolutely.
else. Okay.
Absolutely. There was policing before body cameras, so
Yeah.
yeah, we've got all sorts of different systems in place.
Okay. So I have another question that's kind of related. So information just before we get onto it. How much of either both is foilable?
Body cameras?
Of the body cameras and or the taser?
Oh, so body cameras is a more complex analysis. So if, for example, there's a body camera interaction of you and me, Preston couldn't ask for it. It would be denied because he wouldn't be subject to the recording. And if I misspeak, okay, so he's not a party to the recording.
Okay.
Actually, the exemptions for FOIAs are pretty extensive on body cameras.
Right, so for the most part, body cam videos are not FOIAble unless there's a complaint file. It's very similar to the flags, right? Complaint file, discharge of a firearm, use of force, arrest or detention, or bodily harm.
There's got to be almost a cause
Right.
in order for it to be foilable. So a reporter couldn't just request something that there's not a stake in there in which there's
Yeah, at least
some
that's
kind of-
my understanding. Yeah, there needs to be there needs to be a triggering event, but even in that case, one of the things that Lieutenant Searles was referring to, I have to get my title right, is that it depends on your posture and your position whether or not you're going to be able to actually FOIA. If you're a bystander, you may not be able to FOIA. In most cases, you won't. And also, in terms of who is represented in the camera footage, we have to be very careful, and actually there's statutory language that determines if there's an innocent bystander who is not subject to the law enforcement action, it just happens to be on camera, then if we're going to release the video, then under certain circumstances we have to get their waiver to do that, or we have to remove anything that could identify them as an individual. And so, it can get a bit complex when you're looking at that, and it's certainly pretty time intensive in terms of the redaction of those videos.
The sort of the perspective that the legislature has taken is they recognize that body cameras are a thing. They want to capture events and have those for courts and complaints and things, but they also want to protect the privacy of people. So they don't want, TMZ getting the video of you because you're a famous person and me talking to you in the midst of you having a disagreement with your wife. Right? Because it's not for public spectacle. That's what they were trying to avoid.
Like the News Gazette does.
It's for the public interest, where there's a legitimate articulable public interest. That's where they want you to be the public to be able to get to these
Well, most fighters are
footage,
that, right?
or
So
to this footage.
it's the same color.
So for our purposes, so use of force is one of the 7 things that triggers not deleting the video, and taser use would be an example of such use of force.
So the legislature does not do a very good job of defining what use of force is. I can tell you that the Urbana Police Department has interpreted taser, for example, as a use of force. We need to update our policy to reflect that, but I mean, the taser process that we're undergoing right now is doing those sorts of things. So when I get a video, one of the first things I do is I go out and grab that video just in case it doesn't get saved. Which is why when I read reports daily, I'm doing these things. So. But that just relies upon me. You know, if I get run over by a school bus, you know.
Or bus.
Yeah, any kind of bus, really. If I get run over by a bus, then it's going to be the next person's responsibility. But so if I'm on an extended vacation, you know.
So one more question also for information though. We've had, in the last 4 years that we've had tasers, we have had
3 discharges.
3 discharges, and as far as reports, we've had 2 to 3 dozen? Oh, it's 50?
Yeah, it's about 50.
50, and each one went through your hands for the whole process of cleaning up, just like any other video.
Correct.
So each one took 2 to 3 hours.
So yeah, so this last batch that I was doing, I want to say there were 7 or 8 cases that I was starting to worry about. Am I going to lose this video? So I did them en masse. And I've been working on this for probably the last 2 weeks, and of those 7 videos, I probably have 25 to 30 hours into it. So.
So another clarifying
It
question.
is a lot, especially when I have a division to run that's responsible for lots of important things.
Yeah, just coming back to what I was talking about a minute ago. So taser use is a use of force by Urbana Police Department, but that's only if it's discharged, not if it's thrown.
Right now, it's a display also.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That-
In
Thank you.
304.5, it's got the use of the tasers, and 304.5.1 talks about the application and when they should be used. And it's supposed to, they say, can be used when the circumstances perceived by the officer at the time indicates that such application is reasonably necessary to control a subject or suspect who is actively aggressive and the behavior is threatening serious harm to anybody. So that's what it says, but it's not to be used for like just to scare somebody or to intimidate them.
Yeah, I mean, there would be circumstances under which we might consider using it, but, you know, just for fun.
Right.
No, you know, for malicious purposes. No,
Right.
there has to be a legitimate law enforcement purpose.
Okay.
So, given the discussion 5 years ago when we were talking about this, one of the reasons to draw it back then was it might be needed to be used, but to point it at somebody created a what's it called, a threat.
Right.
And therefore, having it on gave us a recording that we wouldn't otherwise have, because back then there were no body cams.
Right.
And so it gave us an audio. So as much as boring as it is when we're sitting in the room and it's pointing at the sidewalk, at the time we had nothing better.
Else, right.
Right? So it was a presence that enabled us to get a better sense of what the reports are.
Right.
Because frankly, even when I read 3 reports, I'm still fuzzy as to what actually happened.
Right.
Right? So that's been for me a positive presence for some of them.
Right.
Luckily, there's only been 3 discharges, but hearing the sidewalk, oh yeah, this is going down, you know, or whatever. So at the time it was good.
But that's what we had.
It's what we had, and it was good enough. I wouldn't want to impose any more work. The trouble with taser or body cams for me is that you never know which one you're going to use until after the fact. And so one of the powerful things we had on tasers was that when it got turned on, it started recording immediately. There was not a choice. It was not a choice by the officer. It just started recording wherever it was pointing and whatever the use was. I'm pointing that out because if there is a choice in turning on the camera on the body, or the patrol car isn't recording, then we have a possibility for being blamed for something that didn't happen because there was no recording. And I flash back to that incident around Chicago that the cameras were not on, but they shot somebody 2 blocks away because it took off, and by the time they got there and the camera got there, it was shot, and they didn't have
Right.
any evidence to defend themselves as officers. And it was really too bad because there were cameras near, but not on the incident itself. So whatever we do as we go through, more information is usually helpful so that everybody gets a sense of it. But every piece of information comes at a cost, and in this case, it's of your valuable time. It's not just the machines. The machines, eventually, if we want them big enough, we'll pay for them somehow. But I do agree that the time investment, the resource investment to capture ought not to be as much. So maybe we can think through how to take that off. The other thing is, we have in 4 years reviewed 50 of them, and we agreed when we started it that we wanted everything recorded because we were training ourselves to use them.
Right.
And it makes no sense to continue in the same mode if we're already used to it, and if you guys are already used to it. And actually, you've started having a difference. There used to be no tasers without cameras at the beginning, because that was the agreement that we had. And as times change, now there is. So here comes the question finally. Is there ever a situation in which there is a taser without a camera? As a taser on without a camera?
So all of our tasers are carried by uniformed patrol officers in the city of Urbana. As a detective, I was certified, I was the taser instructor, and so I could carry one. But I didn't. I gave it to a patrol officer because that's where it's needed the most. That's where it's the most effective. So all of our patrol officers carry tasers, and all of our did I say patrol detectives? All of our patrol officers carry all the tasers, and all of our patrol officers wear body cameras. So they're now always and never are words that don't really happen in police work. I can't say that there will never be an incident where a patrol officer wouldn't have a camera. So, for example, here's an instance where a patrol officer might not have a camera. So, in order for the footage to get off the camera, we stick it in a dock, and it charges it, and it sucks all the data off, and all the video and all the audio. And let's say a hot call comes out, and it's a triple X murder in progress, and the patrol officer runs out, gets in their car, and drives away. But their camera's still in the cradle, right?
Their body camera.
Their body camera, and they, and that's happened. Not the triple X murder part, but with them leaving.
It could happen.
It could happen,
Because
absolutely.
they're not required to wear them.
They are required to wear them. They just forgot because they're human. So they literally actually made little devices. It's a gym clip, a piece of string, and a bell. And they wear it, so they take their camera off, they pick up one of these little bells, and they walk around when they're doing their reports. And so when they go running out, the bell rings. It's very sort of Pavlovian. And so I actually have one hanging in my office. It's a very inexpensive way. It's just a reminder.
Man, that's smart though.
It's Colby Wright thing.
Because I know, man, the mics back when we had the mics before all the body camera stuff. You charge it and you forget it either in the car or in the front. You get out and be like, oh God, golly. Or leaving the jail.
Right.
You leave your gun in the locker.
Yes, it is uncomfortable arresting somebody with no gun. I did that a couple times.
So, wait a minute. I got
Yeah. So is it never going to happen? No, I can't say it's never going to happen. I can tell you that every patrol officer is issued a body-worn camera, and they endeavor to wear it every moment they're out on the street. But they're human and they forget things. They don't do it on purpose. They love the cameras. They want the cameras. They're glad they have the cameras because, like you said, they help, right? And so So yeah, theoretically, there could be an instance where a patrol officer wouldn't have a camera on. But guess what? They're probably there with other people that didn't forget.
The chance of everybody forgetting to turn them on.
It hasn't happened yet. Again, always and never. I can't say it's never going to happen. I just think it's highly, highly unlikely. I think we will have something. It might not be ideal, but I think we will have something.
So a follow-up now, this is just a reminder, because 5 years ago, I was surprised. Escalation, I don't know the technical terms, but that's when I learned that, because I was against tasers. I have lots of friends that were convincing me, get in that committee, do something about, stop the tasers. But I learned that, whether it's state law or local, if your baton doesn't work, you use mace. If it doesn't work, use baton, and the person's still threatening a harm to themselves or to others, then you draw the gun, right? More or less?
There's 1,000 variables in these use of force situations.
Okay, but for me, the one that really got me was, once you draw the gun, you're supposed to shoot to kill.
No, we actually shoot to terminate life-threatening behavior.
Shoot to terminate life-threatening behavior.
Correct. Sometimes that means the person dies. Sometimes it means they don't. But I shoot until the threat stops.
Okay.
And where are you shooting, just to clarify?
Excellent point. So there's this, well, shoot him in the shoulder. No, we don't shoot in the shoulder.
Shoot him in the legs.
You shoot him in the legs, right here. We're center mass.
Is that where you shoot them?
This is where we're taught to shoot them.
Oh, okay.
Center mass, so that means lungs, heart, belly, the kidneys, the liver, all. This is where we are taught to shoot people. This is the proper area to shoot people. Because here's the thing. If he's coming at me with a knife and I shoot him in the shoulder, guess what? He still has a good arm. He can still stab me to death.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
If I shoot him in the leg, he can still pick up that pistol and shoot me.
Right.
So behind this taser policy was, at least for me in that understanding, was after mace and the person still actively coming to do something to me as an officer, my recourse is to pull a gun to stop the life-threatening behavior, which means I shoot in this area, which means that person is going to be really hurt. So guess what? For me, the option of tasers, all of a sudden became very handy to say, you know what? I know that somebody could die with a taser. I know they hurt a lot. I've heard, but it'll pass.
Yeah.
This getting shot here is not likely to pass very easily.
Right.
So I became a partisan of tasers, and I still support them now that when I hear the fights out there. But because the next option is deadly, let's say. And I still believe that as we consider this policy, if that's the escalation, then we work with that understanding that it could be much worse.
As a police officer, I can always tell you I want more options, not less.
Okay.
And from what we've seen from the 1, 2 that we have watched where somebody who's actually tased, it, for lack of a better word, it takes them down. And as somebody who regularly deals with very young people who I am trying to talk down, but at times I have had to physically restrain, you want, the taser does in many ways the least amount of harm.
Yeah.
Because even it like you said, and they can still harm you, but also if injured, they could become far more escalated.
Especially
And
under drugs.
That
Right.
sort of escalation is not fun.
Yeah, at the beginning of this conversation regarding tasers, I presented some information to the city council, and it was a lot of research and data, and I pulled work comp numbers from the city of Urbana, and one of the pieces of information that I found was tasers prevent injuries. They prevent injuries to the people that we're dealing with, and they prevent injuries to us. Currently, we have 5 police officers on duty injury status. 5. That's of a police department of 58. Okay? And One of them just had shoulder reconstruction surgery. He's going to be out for a year. Okay?
You still paying him full and whatever?
He just showed up to work for his first day of light duty today. And I said, boy, do I have some stuff for you to do. Okay?
Redact some videos.
Redact some videos, exactly right. You know, we've got another fellow that's out that he, again, physical fight. And that's always how these things happen. It's always a physical fight. And we don't all have young men's bodies. You know what I mean? As you get older, you break easier.
Yeah, you do.
This guy's had 3 orthopedic surgeries. How many have you had? 3.
Took me out the game though.
Yeah. So, you know.
And one thing we can say about Urbana, I look at the times that we're in now, and you look at what's happening around the country, and I know many times officers in other localities are looking at, you know, the fear that's out there. But you see so many people getting killed, I mean literally killed, and whether it's an officer feels that their life is being threatened, or whether it's a combative individual, usually a young person, we see more and more of this occurring.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel as if we have a solution other than the deadly force thing. And I know it's not an easy job for policemen out there. I know it's not. But I see more and more anger and disgust with what's happening around this country. And it's frightening. It's frightening. Because I see shooting is becoming something that's not an option. It's the first thing that's used in many cases. So now with the tasers and the body cams, I'm glad we have a couple options there. You know, but I'm in favor of saying let's randomly look at some of them, not just shut them out the window because we still use them. You know, but
Well, from a staff resource allocation perspective, I can tell you the police department would really appreciate it. One of the things that Preston and Todd referenced was my title. So I'm the guy that does the stuff. Except for Deputy Chief Bob Fitzgerald is retiring on Friday, and as of 5 p.m. I become the Deputy Chief, which means I have a new job. And I don't know how this is going to fit into that new job. I can try to train somebody else, but it is not an easy thing to have learned, and I don't know how quickly other people will learn it. I will make sure y'all are taken care of, but if we could get some relief, that would be appreciated.
so how do we feel? Do we want to vote on whether we're in favor as a group of reducing the number of randomly selecting, I said, maybe 3 or 4 at a time, as opposed to everything that comes along with tasers?
Well, do we want to look at, why are we not considering just getting rid of all the video from the tasers?
That's another way to do it.
Just strictly go with body cam.
Right.
Okay.
Is that
So the process I described to you was the body camera.
right?
Okay.
Okay. And like, as a board, like, are we looking at any consequence if something, like, if we decide to go the part of picking and choosing or randomly selecting, and if something goes, you know, gets on, you know, goes beside us and we don't see it, and it becomes an issue.
Right.
Like, you know, how does that reflect on us as being chosen as a board to look at this, and now we're picking and choosing? People are like, you're part-timing it compared
Okay.
to, you know, is that a concern, I guess?
It could be a concern. So I'm more inclined to say, Preston.
So every discharge you would still get, right?
I suppose my
That
recommendation
makes
would be
sense.
something like this, and this is just my opinion. If you want to see every discharge, we can do every discharge. So far, we've had a total of 3. I believe you're right. You've seen 2. There's 1 that's pending. Okay. I'm trying to remember which one that was. Anyhow, so I would say get every discharge. Now the question becomes, well, what if it misses? What if it doesn't connect? Do you want to see that? I don't know the answer to that. I guess y'all can decide. In terms of displays, listen, you've seen the displays. They're usually kind of the same thing. I would say something like, every 5th video or a random number generator or something like that. Don't let me decide. Maybe I say, okay, Preston, I've got 10 videos, and you number them 1 through 10, and somebody does a random number generator and you pick 3, or I don't know. I don't know what would satisfy you in terms of percentage. I think you can put in processes that makes it completely random, so that I'm not cherry picking videos and saying, well, this one's good and this one's not.
Could we do something perhaps not quite as random, where we get like the police report or a summary of a police report? I'm sorry.
So you just want to pick them?
And then just go, well, and that way we could evaluate whether there is any concern we may have moving forward. Because in addition with that, and with the addition of the 90-day hold on all those materials, I think we would be safe for the most part. Does that sound valid?
Okay, I'm hearing, yeah, it does. I'm hearing 3 things out there. We can randomly select amongst us. We would be the ones doing it. It wouldn't be us looking at everyone. The concern would be, would we be cherry picking on who we think of it? No, I like this one looks longer, this one. Okay, so could there be some problems if something came up and we didn't pick the right number? Okay, you're saying that could we more define how many we're looking at?
Well,
or not
define what might potentially be concerning. I mean, right now we're just randomly looking at stuff, and half the time it's like domestic disturbance calls, or
We're not
You're going to filter it.
We're not randomly looking. We're looking.
We're looking.
Right.
We're looking at all
We're
of
looking
them.
at all of them.
right. And what I'm saying though is that if we looked at a police report, or if we looked at something as a group before putting this poor man or his poor predecessor through that process, going, summarizing as a group, these things happened. Well, perhaps we should ask for this.
Then that puts us in the position of having to look at them all.
Yeah, in timely manner.
No, not the videos necessarily, but just look at the reports. Don't take more than maximum of 3 to 5 minutes to read each that we have.
Well, but you have to redact the reports as well.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true.
So,
third one.
to move things a little bit
Todd
forward.
he's been trying to get in.
Go
like
get Todd.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on staff, so I don't really have a place to speak. But just to answer the question, in most cases, the vast majority of the cases, if something does go sideways, the complaint process, we're just going to hear about that through the complaint process, or through some other type of mechanism for filtering that out.
Okay.
So I just wanted to
So
address
the
that.
complaint necessarily doesn't always align with the camera, where you see the camera because it was either deployed or displayed. The complaints are separate sometimes, like a civilian can put a complaint about a police officer that had nothing to do with a taser, and we would still do that. So not every taser that I was seeing on my first meeting was all based off of complaints.
None of them.
Oh, okay.
And
So
so if there is a-
None of
okay.
them were.
If
I
there
was
haven't seen a
concerned
complaint
that
yet.
somebody that made a complaint about
Exactly.
and then even if their family came to the public portion, they're like, you guys can choose to view this, and okay,
Right.
okay, that's what I
that
was
can't
looking at.
really happen in
Gotcha.
this system,
Okay.
because that complaint would be
Wow.
investigated,
Gotcha.
the actual
You would see
video,
that
all
in
of
the
the
appeal
information,
process.
Okay.
all of the information from that would be flagged and chunked with the complaint, and then that would be investigated, and then if it were appealed, if that investigation were appealed, then you would see all of that.
Understood. So you guys can eliminate my concern.
To
No,
date,
no, that's good.
to date, we have not had a single complaint regarding a taser.
Excellent.
So, can I make, I
Today.
have 3 things to propose, hopefully that'll give us a bottom to build from. Number 1, it seems to me that we no longer need taser cameras. Because there is usually a body cam, and there are now tasers with no cameras. So that inconsistency itself tells me we gotta go either or. So for me, I'd like to propose that we disregard taser cameras altogether.
There's a proposal.
As a base, yes. I move that
Well,
we,
if it's discharged, and if there is a taser camera,
Then we-
it makes sense for us to look at.
that's right, as
Okay.
part of evidence, but we would no longer look at every taser camera unless there is a discharge. Well, that's my second
Yes.
proposal. But my first one is no longer require to see taser cameras just because. Okay. My second proposal would be that we require to see all discharges because that covers anything that might go sideways. I don't know that expression, but I like it. Sideways.
I was just borrowing it.
Yeah, all right. Because if that is true, then the most important taser situations we would want to see with as much evidence as possible, which body cameras are, better than the tasers often.
Yeah.
Although there's been some pointing of a taser that's really given us a look from the police officer, because he's always going to pose where it's going to shoot.
But the body cam just appears as though, from what we have seen of body cam,
Very clear.
they're more,
They're better.
It's a better camera.
yeah.
They're
and
better
the
cameras.
audio is so much more crisp, and really, it seems like a lot, we should also not just be looking at what's going on physically through the video, but listening to what is said, whether it's said appropriately, and that's why I
And,
like
and,
the
and it's
other
directed
cameras.
towards the officer usually, so we get it. My third one would be that we would, and I think it's already there, but we would clarify, that we would have, it would review all complaints with all evidence possible. And that is put there for myself there because I need to know what is our privilege to see body cameras. If it's related to a complaint, we will get it, redacted and everything, but is that true from the rules perspective?
I don't think I understand.
He's saying that if there is a complaint and a body cam is involved, of course.
In the appeal process?
Yes.
Yeah,
I believe.
I don't know why
it's
we would.
required.
I don't know why we wouldn't.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that because there was we have an actual policy for tasers and taser access
Right.
as the police review board, but I've never heard of us having a policy for our access to the body cam, except as to when it's incidental to a report, for example. And I'm saying that only because our job is to review the police complaint process.
Right.
We're not even reviewing the police in general.
Right.
It is anyone involved with a complaint.
I think that could be added to the ordinance, because I don't think the whole thing with body cams was included
Well,
anyway, was it?
I think to the extent that they're attached to a pending complaint and particularly to an appeal, again, all of that information is made available to the CPRB through the appeal process, if it is appealed.
So
Okay.
if that is true, then my two proposals stand. One, that we don't require taser reviews, period.
Okay.
And two, that we do require them in discharges. That we require as much evidence as possible in discharges of a taser. Because that limits your work as to how many you're going to do. It limits our work as to which ones we're going to see, only those that had a full discharge. And every other case in which a taser might be involved is covered by our complaint process.
Right.
So darn it, if there was something that happened and there's taser footage, but it has a complaint, then we're going to see it.
Then we'll see it. Right.
So it captures those situations that would put you guys in a liability and us in a
Get a clear picture of what is
transparency liability to the public to say, yes, we're doing our job of reviewing those instances that could be questionable
Right.
or questioned by a complaint. So anyway,
We have a dual proposal on the table. Are you making this a motion?
Yes, so I move that we eliminate the required taser camera review. Obligatory review.
Of all displays.
Of all displays, yes. Because the random process, we're gonna go through a process, and we're gonna miss the one that could have, should have. So we just say, no, we decided we weren't gonna watch them unless there is something deeper. Because there might be a complaint later on, but surely we would have a camera, and if we don't have a camera, the display camera is gonna give us just an audio that's wobbly, like we've had before. So if we just take that all out, then the chances of us getting the one with no camera or the one with camera becomes really fuzzy. If we do a random and that there is no camera,
Right,
what are we gonna do with that? So just take them all out.
okay,
All displays unless there is a discharge.
okay.
Okay?
All those, is there a second to his motion?
Second.
There is a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I don't know who's writing down what the proposal was, but. Oh, you
There
got
she
it?
is.
Okay.
And that motion was to eliminate the obligatory
Obligatory
review of all taser displays.
That's right, which is exactly what we've been doing. So that takes it all out. Now, I put on the table, having said that, now that I move that we require a review of all taser discharges.
Okay.
Couple clarifying questions. I'm not sending you animals. We've had 2 dogs. I don't see how that fits the ordinance. So I haven't been sending you dogs.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to make it abundantly clear
All discharges on humans?
on human beings.
Okay.
Okay.
There hasn't been a complaint that goes with one of the
No.
Tarzan dogs?
No, typically it's an aggressive dog that's trying to bite somebody.
Okay.
And we hit the dog with the taser and the dog runs away. It's just more accurate than pepper spray, and we
No,
really don't want to beat a dog with a baton.
Okay.
Okay,
great.
so I have dogs, so it doesn't really, anyhow. Okay, so I want to clarify that,
All discharges on a human.
okay, and so then the second question I have for you is, what if I discharge and I miss?
I think we should still look
You
at
all
those.
I
discharge.
think let's look at it.
Yeah, because at least if there is a fallout, it's
I'm
covered.
just asking
Covered by
questions.
everybody. So, we agree?
Right.
Okay, so I move that we require a review of all taser discharges that happen on a human, regardless of the effect of the discharge.
Non-training?
Non-training,
Okay.
except for training situations.
Just making sure, because
That's
when
right.
we tase each other in annual training, I didn't want you to
That's
have to
all right.
watch that.
Actually, I like to volunteer.
If you would like to get tased, I
My
would.
kids forced me to jump off a plane, and I thought I would never be stupid enough to do that, so.
So,
Well, one of the things, finish your thing, we'll talk.
Okay, so anyway, so that's my second proposal then, and I think I worded it enough, Monique?
I got it.
Okay.
Require all you're requiring to be able to view all discharge
Can you be an
that
addendum to
connect
the
or
first?
not connect.
okay.
That connect or not, all discharges on a human.
That connect or not
And
connect.
do not.
Can we do this as an addendum to your first proposal?
Well, it's cleaner if you do the second,
Okay.
if you do them separately,
He has a
because then
second
you'll
one.
have a purpose, 2
Okay.
guidelines when this gets reviewed.
There's a second motion on the floor.
Question, just to clarify, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And does that do we have to put anything specifically as far as body cameras in that? Is that needed?
My recommendation would be I continue to present the same information I have been presenting, which would be video.
Any video?
No, listen, if I got 5 police officers there, you
Right,
don't want to
you
watch
choose the
it.
best one,
So,
yeah.
so I've been using sort of my judgment in terms of what is pertinent and relevant to the situation at hand. So again, the domestic that's 50 minutes long, you only care about the 60 seconds where I'm pointing a taser at somebody. So sort of administratively, I've been culling that down. Obviously, you get all the reports.
There is, and if there were a complaint, we could ask for more info,
Right.
Yeah.
which you
I just
have
don't know if it
got.
needs to be specific in that case of saying body camera compared to taser camera or anything for that to add it into it.
So
I just
the
wanted to-
department's plan is to eliminate taser cameras in their entirety
Right.
and just rely upon the body cameras.
Because
That's what-
they're
Right.
pricey.
So we're
Right,
already
right.
ahead.
I just didn't know if we need to start adding that verbiage into everything now that
Yeah.
we're kind of going over.
So If we approve that second motion, then we use that to go through this again and say, what does this need to change in order to accord what we agreed on?
Yeah.
Because this will have fine points, and we may come back and say, you know what, we need to modify something. But this was a bear to create point by point, given what we were understanding everybody wanted. And that's what I'm trying to prep for.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Question?
Who's
Megan.
second?
Oh, I also.
Okay.
Okay, looking through the policies. Is there anything else?
So you have 3, didn't you?
Well, the third one actually was a clarification that you guys already said, which means that all complaints will have all evidence possible to have to consider the whole case.
And so just
Include
to
them.
clarify for the record, yeah, that's in 1936 of your ordinance. If you look at 1936A1, that's page 5, look on the printed text in the ordinance. In conducting a review, the CPRB shall be provided with full access to case-specific records and tangible evidence subject to the limitations of 1926.
In 1926, they had not come up with cameras yet, so we should be fine.
Yeah.
page
Yeah.
5.
And so 1926 just
26 was there.
explicitly lays out those areas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, page 5. I'm sorry. They were trying to find it.
What's wrong?
They were just trying to find it.
It's in the ordinance.
Ordinance.
The
Yeah.
ordinance, you're looking at
Yeah.
that. We want
Not your
that.
policies.
Oh.
You need that?
What was this?
Yeah, hold on, here, you have mine. I got
I'm
your
sorry.
one.
No. It's
You have
over here.
1838.
Oh, I was saying, where these numbers come from? We were looking.
And so when you get down to
Thank you,
1926,
guys.
Oh, I gave her.
it basically spells out in very clear
Follow 'em up,
detail
buddy.
all of the records that you all would have access to. And I think that those
Oh,
records
that's good you have that.
reasonably include,
All cameras.
yeah, all of the camera footage. That's essentially all footage that's tangible and relevant to the actual complaint itself.
Okay.
I do have a question, not to take us, sidetrackers or anything, and not to make it long. Just wondering, like how you were saying, you're using your judgment, and obviously you've been doing an excellent job. But we're looking at the opportunity of someone else, taking on this responsibility as far as a predecessor.
Yeah.
Like, what's the check and balances on this? Like, compared to you did an excellent job, you may give this to someone who doesn't care for it, and they're not really trying to pull the best view and things like that. And they're just giving us.
Totally reasonable question. Based on what you guys have done this evening, I suspect that I will probably keep this, just because I don't think it will happen that often. I'm familiar with the process. I'm familiar with the board. I think, and I can continue to appear in front of the CPRB if there's questions, and I think one of the things that's been very beneficial over the last few years is just the back and forth, talking about things, talking about hypotheticals and situations, and kind of what are we talking about. And it's an opportunity for me to provide training, ongoing training on sort of, this is the lens that I look at things through. So I suspect probably what will happen is I will keep it. I don't anticipate making any changes to the process. It's just the amount of things that I have to do will be reduced. So if y'all are fine with it, I would just recommend we just continue marching down the road the way that we've been going and just changing what we're looking at. And like I said, if you want me to come, and this is where I was going before your motion, one of the things we talked about last time was some training with an actual taser and a discharge. So in all seriousness,
I requested a discharge.
yeah.
You?
I feel like
Really?
to
Yeah.
be able to judge fully, if I have a full understanding, just like an officer, to be able to shoot it, they have understanding what
Let us know when you do it.
Yeah, by all means.
So this is where we loop Ricardo in. So if you want to get tased, someone on the board can tase you, or I can do it.
Well, I
No?
did that
Can my wife
video of shooting. I killed somebody in the picture.
No, probably
Just for
not.
liability purposes, can we make sure we have medical waivers before we're?
Yeah.
I ain't doing
Absolutely.
it.
Those
I
are
want to be present. I want to see it. I say that a little tongue in cheek because I'm guessing you're not interested in being tased.
No, actually, no. In talking to my kids about this kind of discussion, they question my authority, my
Bravado?
validity. No, the I ate them up when I jumped out the plane.
Okay.
Because they thought for sure I would never do it. So
You're
they
a better
got
man than I
nothing
am.
on me.
Well, please let us know when this takes place.
Okay.
And
Well,
we-
no, we will do it as part of the training, maybe.
If you want to do it, we can make
each other.
sure.
And we need video of that, right?
Yes, we
Well,
do.
with the kids,
You can't. I actually checked on that. You can't videotape, right?
can you videotape?
Like
the
someone
taser?
being
Tased.
tased. That's
So
what I was
this is
told in my
this
ride
is
along.
this is what I would tell you. This is I tell you.
guys will-
Those always turn into mockery
Right,
and
right.
things and
Because the things that
that's
you do,
Yeah,
when
your
you get
reaction.
tased,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have no control over it.
I would
Your arm
say
may go up here.
I would say if you're
Might
interested in
kill
doing this,
yourself.
I would say if you're interested in doing this, we do this in a private environment
Right.
because strange things happen.
Yeah.
Strange things happen. People develop Tourette's all of a sudden.
Oh, wow.
Not legitimately, but the words that sometimes come. So.
That would be the only reason I would want to
It's
listen to it.
and you know to be perfectly, I've tased, you know, in training I've tased a bunch of people and I always feel really bad when I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the
They're
first
paying
group of officers that we had go through, I was like, I'm really sorry. You know?
Wow.
You're who's the third? You're I can't even think now. Who works third shift? Third shift sergeant.
We've got 4 total.
Black gentleman.
Cortez.
He was very excited to hear that I wanted to be tased. Like he even.
Oh,
volunteered.
you want to be tased too?
Well, that's why I requested the training because
Oh,
he
wow.
requested.
Because Cortez would
Yeah,
like to
that's what I'm saying. He requested to tase me, and that's why I felt uncomfortable.
Legally, be able to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So there's 4 of you that haven't volunteered yet.
I'm not volunteering.
I would say that's a good plan. That's a
No,
hard no.
absolutely not.
My knee wouldn't like it, so I'm not.
Why
gonna
are we
do it.
encouraging this?
Well, if they want it,
You know, the
I
policy,
prefer,
the
like,
policy
training
requires the
option. I
officers to
thought
do
that
it. We might as well put the CPRB in there too.
Medical waiver.
There will be waivers. It's a standard waiver.
So,
Had a heart attack.
just so I'm clear, oh, and to add to it, so you would still get the, Daryl, I do not have you in the portal yet. I will get you added to the portal and send you the information so that you can log on from home to
very
the videos and the redacted reports.
Okay.
They would still go there when we do have one. I will send out notifications ahead of time just so you have plenty of time to review it when we get it. This kind of caveat, can I go to this?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
So of the 16 I have, do you want to see those or do you want to start right away?
Let's start right away.
Okay, I believe I have 1 that you'll see then.
Okay.
And I'll identify that for you so you
Yes.
can make sure you get pushed
Which
out.
means we'll get them faster because there's
You
only.
will get them
Yeah,
faster.
you'll get them back.
You will get them
You have
faster.
plenty of time to watch and you know, ask questions, take notes, do whatever.
So may I ask whether or not there are any, the chair, whether or not there's any more discussion about the
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Any more discussion about tasers?
Yes, there is one. And that is, ultimately, it's where it will end up on section, on policy 304 modification.
So that policy that you're looking at is a police department policy, and that's what the officers use. I will sit down and review that if you like and see if there's any implications of that policy. Because one of the things that I'm inheriting as of Friday at 5 is apparently a policy review. Thank goodness for me. So I can add this. There will be things in here, and is this your copy? So Preston's already identified a couple things like reference to taser cameras and
Exactly.
things. So I'll have to do a little find
Yeah,
and
so let's
replace.
stick to that.
So, and then we'll go back to that, the one that marks up the changes anyway. So at that point then, that would be when we come back to that.
This is what you're speaking about?
No, I think we didn't we write this together?
We did.
Yeah. So when you do your first cut, that's the time to bring us a couple of us in just so we can agree on wording.
Yeah,
So I would suggest that we assign 1 or 2 of us to work with the deputy chiefs.
I'm a lieutenant still. I still work for a living.
Yeah, but when this comes back, It will be with the deputy chief
Correct.
probably.
So we're talking.
That we assign 2 people to work with the deputy chief to see what changes there are here, so we can have them. I don't think we have authority
I'll
on
do
it,
it.
but
I would love
Okay.
to.
But it would
Yeah.
be
Excellent.
nice. if
Because
we
I
had-
read IEPs all the time.
Okay, so you have 2 volunteers that'll work with you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you
I'll just
all
reach
will
out and we
report
can
back to
get
us.
together.
Okay, excellent.
Then you all will give us a report on what you found out.
To the best.
Yes.
So, just for clarification purposes, since I'm going to type you up, your minutes of
Okay.
this, I just want to clarify the process, because there were a lot of different conversations with your process that you have, to make sure that I have it correct.
Okay.
You have that you are going to eliminate reviewing all TASER videos. In lieu of-
Rationale?
Yeah, in lieu of that, rather than reviewing them all just for the sake of reviewing them. Secondly, you're going to only review the discharge videos on human, whether it connects or it does not. So
Right.
they will be the only ones that you review.
Yes.
Third, which is already inside of the ordinance, that if a TASER is discharged, that you all will review any additional video from body cams that are on there. Is that correct?
That's an event that is a complaint.
A complaint, okay, and that's what I needed to know,
Right,
because I
right.
want to make sure that we're not gathering that
Right.
if there's a discharge, that he's going to give you all of these videos.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we're clear with
If a
that. So
complaint is
only if there
filed.
is a complaint that's found,
Right.
is when you will review the body cams.
Right.
So the only videos that you will be reviewing moving forward are videos that are discharged with a human, connect or not.
Right, no dogs.
Actually,
Cats.
a modification to, I think, address what you said, Darius. Can we add that all body cam video related to a discharge is tagged, flagged, I think was the word that you used.
Right, so
non-
that's.
non-erasure.
I was trying to pull up. Were you able to get the statute to pull up?
Yeah.
My,
Because that way, they only present 2 angles, but there's the 3 that if you really push, then we waited, we would get them.
Very good. Very true.
oh, guys.
Here. That's all clear. The body camera will be, one letter? One letter? Okay, we'll talk.
One thing that I think would probably behoove me to tell you is there are circumstances under which police officers are required to turn off the body camera. I think it's important to know that there is an exception. So for example, if a victim of a crime requests it. So if I'm interviewing a sexual assault victim and they say, I don't want to be recorded, I need to turn off the camera. If I'm in a private environment. So for example, if I go into somebody's hospital room, there's some discretion that we need to use. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware, there are a couple exceptions under which we would actually turn off the camera.
It's unlikely that we would also want the taser video for
No,
that situation either.
Right,
No, it's
right.
not. It's not the sort of, it's not the sort of thing where a taser would be involved.
Yeah.
And as I was reading through this, I just saw that and I thought it was important to share that with you. What I'm looking for is the 7. A formal complaint has been filed, an officer discharged his or her firearm or used force during the encounter. Death or great bodily harm occurred to any person in the recording. The encounter resulted in a detention or an arrest, excluding traffic stops, which resulted in only minor traffic offenses or business offenses. The officer is subject to an internal investigation or is otherwise being investigated for possible misconduct. The supervisor of the officer, the prosecutor, the defendant, or the court determines the encounter has evidentiary value. The recording officer requests that the video be flagged for his or her official purposes related to his or her official duties. Those are the 7. So the one that y'all probably care about is subject to an internal investigation or otherwise being investigated for possible misconduct. So that would, I guess, we would call the complaint.
Yes.
So,
So They can turn them off in sensitive situations, but
Right.
not, we would have, you know, as much as possible.
Right.
So.
And as he
that's cool.
stated, that would not be the sort of situation, you know, that's just.
I just don't see it happening. I think it's probably more likely that you would see something like the body camera falls off them in the middle of a fight. And we've already had that happen. I mean, I think that's the sort of thing that we're run into is like, I'm looking at the concrete right now. Why am I looking at the concrete? Well, because they got into a fight and they got knocked off their chest or their belt or
But
whatever
yeah,
it was.
like you had said, we would still, if there was a situation of an altercation, other police officers. would be
Chances are
present.
very high there's going to be other police officers here. Police officers in Champaign-Urbana typically do not do things by themselves. It's just not. It's not the way we're taught. It's not the way we're trained. It's just not
And
safe.
it's a bad idea.
And it's just a bad idea. It's just a bad idea. I've done a couple things by myself and said afterwards, you know what, that was really dumb.
So my proposal was that any camera not used as part of the presentation of a discharge be flagged for non-erasure.
Is this a proposal or an addendum to one of the
Well, I
proposals you had? Got it.
I don't know whether we need it as a proposal or if we can amend
We can
without
amend.
voting. Can we amend it?
Can you say that one more time?
That,
Amendment.
that all body cams involved in a discharge are flagged for non-erasure. Because if he chooses 1 and 2, but there are 3 through 5, they shouldn't be erased because that would put his judgment in question.
So the question, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I'm trying to figure out what's the best place to incorporate that. And maybe the answer is I can tell you that as part of my policy review, one of the policies I review it would probably be something like internal investigations or something like that, and maybe we codify that in that policy. So maybe, and I'm not sure if this is going to suffice for this evening, or if we need to postpone that particular discussion till later. But if I make the representation to you that I will get that codified in a policy sometime, I'm not sure I don't think it's best to go into the taser policy.
I actually agree too, because it's procedure, your internal procedure that would safekeep all investigations, right? And because you're required to present everything at a later time, if there was anything, you would want to keep it because it would be available. So we just make sure that it's available, because not all discharges turn into a complaint.
Right.
But there could be a complaint of a discharge, of our handling of a review of a discharge, because we didn't see all the evidence. And since they're not erased, we could actually come back and say, let's wait on our judgment here till we see the other angles and verify that what we think we see is really what everybody saw.
Does and where you're saying flag it, it'll be so it doesn't delete in the 90 days, that kind of the
Yeah.
issue? Okay.
The system is designed to want to delete the video at
Right,
90
and I was
days.
gonna say, is there anything, is a flagging the option?
So without getting too far into the weeds, basically the way it works is we apply what's called a tag.
Okay.
So I categorize the video, and retention periods are applied to each one of those tags. And in certain circumstances, I do something. I will put videos in what I refer to as a case file, which is basically a folder, and that suspends the purging process completely.
Okay.
So if I make an arrest, I put my case number on U19-1234, and I say I got video from Rich and Ricardo and Todd and Preston, and click and drag it over here and drop it, and then we should have it forever and ever, amen, until we delete that case file. And the reason we do that is for preservation of evidence
Right.
for the
And
prosecutor.
I was gonna ask, what is your archiving time frame? Is it like a 7, 10 year, 5-year thing as far as a situation in that?
So we're so new into the body camera stuff, we haven't really gotten into the process of purging video beyond the automatic purging stuff that we're talking about. It's a task that I've assigned to my evidence officer, because we're treating, the way I've sort of conceptualized it for is, well, we're treating digital evidence like I would physical evidence. So if this microphone is a piece of evidence, I would take it and I'd put it on a shelf
Right.
until the prosecutor wants it. Then I'd take it off the shelf and I'd give it to the prosecutor and they use it in court. Right? And at some point, the microphone ceases to be important and we throw the microphone away. Right? So the same process sort of generally would apply to digital evidence.
Gotcha.
Okay. Is there anything else
No,
we need to discuss?
I think we got through it
We
all.
gave it the follow-up, so that's
Okay.
great.
I'll make is there a motion for the special meeting to be over?
Did you have something?
Well, I just had one thing.
Oh, we did have.
In addition to Todd showed me these, which is kind of, instead of me telling you verbally how many complaints we had,
Right.
he had now I didn't have what was proposed that it had, but it would have the complaint number that's assigned by the police department, the date that it was filed, the date that the findings was issued out by the police department, the incident date, the incident type, improper procedure or whatever, the address location, not the actual address, but the incident location, 100 block or intersection, whether the complaint was withdrawn, whether it was insignificant evidence, founded in part with insignificant evidence, and whether discipline was imposed, race of the complainant, and whether they asked for an appeal at the time. So you would get that, but that would be the only thing printed, because I'm going to send you, if there is a taser display, I'm going to send you that report for you to print and bring in.
Okay.
So I would bring in this along with the agenda and so forth.
How often will we get that for each of our meetings, the meetings that we
Every
have?
3 months. If I don't have any, I'll
Say
give
that.
you one that has blank.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
or just won't have nothing. Like,
Okay.
I don't want to waste paper. See,
very
crying
good.
already about it.
And just for reference, the categories that he named off are all the categories that are specified in, I think it's 1927A2 of the ordinance. And so you see that the city council sort of laid all of those out.
It
Okay,
helps to read.
yeah.
So, can I make a request before we close? Can I have access to the body cam spiel?
Spiel?
Yeah,
What do you mean
the
spiel?
rules on body cam.
The policy? I think it's
The
posted on
state-
our external
Yeah,
website,
I've got
isn't
Is
one
it?
here.
Okay.
Well,
You
the
said it was
rules
the
on
state-
body cam. Oh, that's
The
right.
policy.
The policy.
The policy on body cam, which is state regulated, not locally.
Do you want the statute too?
If you send that to me, I'll send it out to everybody.
Excellent.
Yeah, that
That's
would be a good
excellent.
idea.
That would be great.
So we all.
So we get a backgrounder on it.
Yeah.
It's a good read. This
Oh, it's
you know, I gotta say something. It's horribly written.
It is not well
It's
done.
horrible. It's awful.
It is not well
And
done.
Illinois legislature, they're not the best statute writers, but this one is particularly horrible. You gotta enjoy it. It's very,
Fortunately, they do other things well.
Todd, we're still recording.
I'm sorry. Which is why I don't do these meetings anymore.
I'm messing with you.
It-
Not live.
all right.
I would completely agree with what Todd Rent just said.
Okay.
It is not well done. You're gonna go, but what? Don't, I can't help it. This is legislature.
That's not yours.
It's just the
It's not your
rules and
baby.
engagement we were given.
Okay. All
So the
right.
disclaimer is you're going to get it, but you can't ask any questions.
You can ask, you can ask questions, again, just think of it this way. Are the police doing police stuff?
Right.
Right? Because that's kind of what they mean. If you're doing police stuff, turn on the body camera.
Right.
Yeah.
But understand that the Coke in the 7-Eleven is not going to be recorded.
Right.
Me writing a police report is not going to be recorded. Me having a conversation with my sergeant is not going to be recorded.
Thanks. We're okay. All right.
Okay, we need a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn our special meeting for today.
Is a motion?
Second.
All in favor, aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.